Developed market status, eh?
Yeah.
We've got a
completely
graphic.
different than yesterday.
Completely different than yesterday. We've got a graphic, I believe, that shows the progress of the WIG20 over the past 10 years or so. Of course, as I was saying earlier, this journey towards developed market status has been ongoing for more than 30 years now, or around about 30 years now. I'm just kind of wondering how you're looking back. Was it difficult to get here? Was it difficult to get to developed market status?
For someone in his early 40s, for me, it was a long time. 27 years since creation of the Warsaw Stock Exchange, when we achieved the status of developed market. But looking at the perspective comparing to Israel or South Korea, it was a rather quick journey. We progress relatively rapidly to the status, and we are very excited and proud what has been achieved over those 27 years.
All right, we've got another graphic which you will be able to see right here, another chart which really shows the PE ratio of the WIG20 versus some of its peers within Europe, the DAX, the FTSE 100, and also the OMX in Stockholm, which is a little bit further north than you. I'm just kind of wondering what developed market status means in terms of valuations, for instance. Will you be able to climb to the kind of levels that we are seeing for some of the other European indices?
Well, FTSE Russell evaluates in the first row the institution of the capital market, and this is a kind of stamp that the institution works fine. So we have good companies, good infrastructure, trading, post-trading. And now when you look at those PEs, they are much lower than developed markets. So it suggests that combined with the healthy economic growth of Poland, that it can increase. And the wave of new investors who will be coming after the developed market status achievement will contribute to that. And also the local investors base will improve through the new wave of pension funds.
Okay, so you're now looking to attract capital. You're looking for funding from outside of Poland. I'm just kind of wondering, what questions do you receive now from outside investors looking at Poland? What kind of questions are they asking you?
Yeah, first, most important question is about our macroeconomics. And as our Prime Minister outlined it, as ex-banker very carefully, the outlook and the performance is very good. The second, the questions are related to the market infrastructure, what we do, how we do, who are the players, brokers. And then it comes down to the companies. And they look at the WIG20, which companies are there, what industries. We have strong banks there, but we have also a company which offers a global product, being one of the most popular RPG game in the world. So they see a good mix of local-based businesses being energy, financial services, but also some globally appealing companies.
Just going back to the chart, what do you think is going to be key for you to raise the PE, to attract those inflows?
The key factor is obviously the companies, how they perform, their investors' relation policy, they talks with the global investors. On the side of the stock exchange, what we can do is just market not only Poland but also the region under the motto "Old Europe money, New Europe ideas."
I mean, one of the questions that I'm also guessing is that comes from investors is the institutional setup, the institutional framework in Poland. In the past 24 hours or so, we've heard of the European Commission taking the government to court over its handling of the Supreme Court. Essentially, the government trying to get rid, pardon the phrase, of some of Supreme Court justices. Are you getting questions about that, and are you concerned about that potentially scaring investors away?
The questions I get are mainly from the bond investors about recovery rates. They have been found very low, and also the efficiency of the jurisdictional system has been in Poland dramatically low. It takes a lot of time to get money out of the defaulted company, and you get like 12 to 14%. This is a little bottleneck, and for all from small to big businesses in Poland, it was challenge that it takes up to 7 years to get the cost settlement. And this is the main question about jurisdictional system.
Yeah.
The other questions I get from the chief economists or senior economists from the large funds is about macroeconomics impact of the dispute with the EU. But at the moment, we are front runner in terms of using EU cohesion funds in Europe. Percentage-wise, amount-wise, we are the leader in using the cohesion funds. So in the moment, it has no impact on the macro situation. And also, if you look at the VAT collection versus EU subsidies, of course, VAT collection improvements have much greater impact for the fiscal stability than EU subsidies. And with the uninterrupted growth of Polish economy over the last 26 years, we are at the level of 70% of GDP per capita of EU average. And in the purchasing power parity, we have higher GDP per capita than, for example, Portugal. Mm-hmm. So it's obvious that in the next founding rounds, leaving aside Brexit, we'll get less money because simply we were so successful that we need less the cohesion funds. Basically, most probably only the east part of Poland will be qualifying for that support.
I'm also wondering about another issue on your radar screen at the moment, and that is pension reform. Essentially, authorities, the government, trying to push those pension savings from ordinary savings account into the markets. How do you look at that development? What is that going to mean for you as a stock exchange?
For us as a stock exchange and also for our foreign investor, the strong local buy side is inevitable. Simply the large funds would like to see the local investors where they are going, what are their strategies. So it's inevitable that you have long-term capital. And indeed, you are very right. 80% of savings in Poland go to banks. We have huge banks and relatively small still capital market. And for long-term productivity growth, and this living aside the stock exchange, but just our economy, it's important that we have also strong equity market and DCM, debt capital market. Otherwise, it could be difficult to bring the competitiveness of Polish economy on the next level.
Now, to a certain extent, this reclassification also means that before you were top of the emerging markets class to a certain extent. Now you're going to be another pupil, so to speak, alongside everybody else in the class when it comes to developed markets. I was just reading that, for instance, Polish stocks used to make up 1.3% of the FTSE's EM group, and from now on you'll make up only 0.15% of the FTSE developed all-cap index. How do you look at that? How are you going to be able to stand out in what looks like a very, very crowded field?
Yeah, I feel a little bit like a manager of a championship team which qualified to Premiership. So basically, of course, you are nervous because the players out there are much better, teams are richer and whatever, but still you are excited about compete with the best. You cannot improve yourself without...
but I suppose the question is, how do you compete with the best? I mean, how do you become a Jurgen Klopp or whoever?
We have some good players. They are not valued, as you saw in this PE ratio, very high, but they are really good players. And with the very good infrastructure, very strong macro, and good companies with very attractive PEs, we can really compete. And also, our market infrastructure is improving in terms of technology and so on, market access. So I'm quite positive on that we will be able to play in the Premiership. We started the rank 23. The aim is to get to 21.
I mean, to a certain extent, you're also facing some pretty tough competition. You've got Deutsche Börse to the west of you, you've got Nasdaq Nordic to the north. How do you look at competition, and how do you stop these relative giants from eating your lunch?
Well, we have more companies on our venue than Deutsche Börse, so we are doing quite fine in terms of time. Of course, on a very smaller, but still we are doing fine. And also, I believe that the entrepreneurial spirit and success hunger is much stronger in the CE than in the well-developed, established economies. So I believe in Polish entrepreneurs that the that they will combine their talents with the money from the pension funds and from foreign investors, and it will fly out.
I'm just wondering as well, economic growth going forward. We've seen some very strong growth rates. I mean, obviously you're dependent, the companies on your stock exchange are dependent on the macroeconomic climate. I just wanted to finish up with that and how you see growth rates going forward.
Well, I'm quite positive. When I look at the IPOs on our venue, majority of the IPOs currently are those companies with globally scalable products, and this is future of Poland. There will be a unicorn from Poland for sure. I don't know what it's going to be, but there will be one. And I'm very positive there is still, when you look at the productivity to labor cost, so-called labor unit cost in Poland is still very attractive. We increase productivity, companies start to invest more, so the macro outlook is positive for Poland. It will be not only driven by strong consumption, but also by the investments.
All right, our time is up. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Markus.
Marek, that was Marek Dietl, the president of the board at the Warsaw Stock Exchange. Thanks again.
Thank you.